It's Matt. We're back with another episode of MPTV. You knew I would find sugar. We're at Unbaked. We're in Scottsdale, Arizona. We're going to sit down with Cari, the owner who was thrown into this business. We're going to talk to her about what she's done from a marketing standpoint and a branding standpoint. As you'll see, the inside is unbelievable. It's put together so well. But more importantly, we're going to talk about why the general manager they hired failed and why it wasn't necessarily his fault. Let's go check it out. Hey, what's up? It's Matt. We're back with another episode of MPTV. This time we're in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we're at a place that you're going to see in some pictures. I already product tested it. We're at a cookie dough shop, Unbaked, with Cari. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm amazing now that I had some cookie dough. And it's ironic because I'm thinking when we leave here, I want to leave with a cookie dough shake.
Yeah.
So that might just be dinner.
Yeah, you'll be on a sugar high.
There we go. So tell us who you are. Tell us about the brand you have here.
So my name is Cari Peterson, and my family started Unbaked primarily as a dessert shop almost 3 years ago. I'm sorry, primarily as a cookie dough shop, but we're actually now more of a dessert shop. Yep. Yeah. And I was not that much involved in the beginning, kind of, sort of, just in the development of opening. And then about 6 months after we opened, I was brought into it full time to take over everything.
Everything.
Everything, yes. And here I am.
And here you are.
With lots of gray hair.
You don't look like you have gray hair.
Just had it colored.
So you told me the story that your husband had an idea.
Yeah, so my husband was on Facebook and saw a gal that opened Dough. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Was that the one in New York?
Yes.
I waited an hour and 45 minutes for that.
Yeah. So he saw that and he just thought it was an amazing idea. Don't know why, because he's been in mortgage his whole life. And so he talked to my brother. My brother's like, yeah, I'm in, I'll do it. So they get my daughter, who was graduating from U of A at that time, on board to help them open it because they still were both doing their regular full-time jobs. So she helped them out to open it, and then about a month into it, did not want to work in a dessert shop, wanted to go do her own thing. We hired a GM who was here for about 6 months, 5 months. Didn't really work out that well, and that's when they told me that I get to take it over.
You said it was like, you're the marketing, and now you're everything.
Yeah, at first it was gonna be I was taking over marketing, and then it was like, just kidding, it's all of it.
Now, what was your background before this?
Nothing in restaurants, sales.
Nothing. Sales.
Yeah, I worked for a Fortune 500 company for 15 years.
Okay.
And then I was retired and playing tennis for 10 years, and it was such a great life. And now I'm here.
Now you're here in the cookie dough business.
Yeah, so now I work like 70 hours a week at least, and it's just nonstop.
Nonstop. Now, when you had the GM, what didn't work out with that? Because I see a lot of businesses, one of our guests a while back, Ray Wiley, called them ostrich owners, where they own the business, but somebody else runs it, and the person running it doesn't really care. Was that kind of the instance you had?
I can go a little bit deeper. So we'd never owned a restaurant before. So they actually did put me in charge of trying to find somebody to take over. And I didn't get tons of responses, but there were a couple that I was interested in. And the guy we ended up hiring was a GM at a coffee bean and tea leaf in town.
Okay.
And I could see why he would fit into that position well, because when you go into a large corporation, I don't know if those are franchises or whatever, but they have a bazillion across the country. They have processes in place, they have systems in place, everything's there that he just has to implement. Yeah. When you come into a small local family first time spot, we needed everything developed, and we had never been in this business before. So I was thinking that was gonna translate with him, like he could create write his own story, right? But using the knowledge from his last job, but that didn't really I think he needed processes in place, right?
Well, because if you've always worked in a place where that was there, to come in and have to start from scratch, that's a daunting task.
Yeah, it is. So, so then I ended up taking over, and I'm a little OCD, so which is good as far as coming up with processes and systems. Sometimes my employees might want to kill me because I'm so detail oriented, but I just feel like it saves a lot of problems down the road.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
So, yeah.
And you could tell the detail oriented when you walked in. When I walked in here, I was pretty confident this was a one location, that it wasn't a franchise, but I walked in here, I went, wow, is there a major company behind this? Is there some billionaire investor that said this is the exact way to make people's eyes wow? Because the place is appealing.
Yeah, it did turn out really well. I will say that.
I mean,
for sure.
the brick wall, the neon lights,
Yeah.
the lighting behind, I would call the box lighting behind
Yeah.
everything. Who was the inspiration, or who came up with the idea of the vision of how appealing this is?
Okay, this is really bizarre, but my husband actually came up with, seriously,
Wow.
he came up with that light. And I'll tell you, I don't know if I should say this out loud because somebody might steal it at some point. But originally that light was supposed to say, I got chip-faced, which was a play on words because my oldest daughter does hair, and she did hair for a gal named Cari on Channel 15 who said her girlfriends in school would never say the shit. They would always say ship. So she had given the idea of, and our mascot is Chip.
Okay.
So we thought that was really cute. So anyway, then we were trying to come up with other things. Give Me Some Sugar was an idea, but our marketing company at the time said, if you can brand in the light, you know, using our name, that would be the best.
Okay.
Which was hard to get my husband on board with that, but he's the one that thought of the neon light. And then our architect thought of that.
Yeah, oh, I love it. I mean, those are all Instagrammable moments.
Yeah.
And that's where I remember the brand you talk about in New York. I'll never forget it. My wife and I and my daughter and son went on a 19-day camping trip from Cincinnati to Niagara Falls to New York, DC, Outer Banks back home. And when we stayed in New York, my daughter was like, Dad, there's this cookie dough place I saw on Instagram. We've got to go to it. And I'm like, okay, cool. We pull up. And I'll never forget.
You had no idea, right?
I had no idea, but I remember pulling up and we parked and I see this little line here and I'm like,
and they're giving you
man.
tickets. Did
There's
they
like
not give you tickets?
Yeah, there's like 10, I'm thinking there's 10 people. All I saw was this line.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm like, what are these morons across the street waiting for? Because there's this line down the block.
Exactly.
It was the line continued. So we waited like an hour and 45 minutes. So it was wild to see how that started with moments like this on Instagram and Facebook.
My daughter went there that spring when they first started planning the concept, and it was the biggest blizzard in New York City, you know, March of 2017 or something, and she decided to go thinking, because the schools, everything was shut down, but she called, they were open, and she thought, oh, this is perfect, nobody will be there. She still waited in line 20 minutes in the biggest blizzard. Yeah, it was unbelievable, but she took lots of pictures. And so, but I will say we figured out after we opened that just cookie dough as a concept was probably not a great idea, because ice cream is something that people can go out and have every week, every other week, whatever, sometimes every day. Cookie dough is typically, you know what I mean?
It's occasional.
Right. So that's why we kind of built on the brand and added more and more. And I've kind of I said we need to rebrand with ice cream, but also then growing it out to more of just a dessert shop and not, you know, not just one pigeonholed thing. So.
And I've heard a lot about the milkshakes.
The milkshakes are amazing. They really are. And then we just got our liquor license, so now we do boozy shakes. That's called pivoting during COVID. So, the milkshakes, it's funny because I came up with a gluten-free one since I'm gluten-free, and my son, his girlfriend always likes to come here, and he came and picked up a shake for her and him, and then he tasted it, and then he was back here for the gluten-free shake, I was telling a client the other day, I said, if there's obviously, I think there's a lot of positives that came out of COVID. Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
When they always say what makes us weaker makes us stronger.
Right.
But the one thing that I noticed, Cincinnati, where I'm from, Northern Kentucky area, they had been fighting to get to-go liquor for a lot of these places. Because like in Louisville, Kentucky, there's, I think it's called 4th Street Live, and you can go into a bar, get a drink, and leave.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to mimic that, but none of the city councils will pass it. Well, all of a sudden, we're a couple weeks into COVID, and it's like, liquor licenses, go out on the sidewalks. I mean, they all became lax. And so I'm seeing a lot of things nationwide.
So they did do it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm seeing it nationwide.
So we had liquor to go, this is before we had our license. When COVID started, DC implemented it, but then a judge, I want to say like in September, overruled it, said it was unconstitutional or whatever. So now they're trying to push it through again, which I think it probably will go through.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think, I won't go into the whole reason of what I think behind why restaurants got destroyed and stomped on by our government in COVID, but I will say that some of the positives that came out of it was local local ordinances relaxed. There was buildings I know that people needed drive-throughs and never could get them, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, put a hole in the wall, make it a drive-through. You
start thinking logically.
Yeah. They started realizing, okay, we have to help you.
Right.
And the boozy drinks to go, like boozy ice cream, boozy milkshakes, but also just alcohol to go, growlers and crowlers, same thing.
Well, I think it's a market for sure coming. You know what I mean? Mixing, because people like to drink, they like cocktails, but people like dessert too, mix it together. So my husband always wants to go for another drink. I'm not into it, but I love sugar. So I will totally come here if I can have dessert and then he's happy because we can have a drink with it, so.
Okay, break time. Restaurant owners, you're watching MPTV, so you're obviously interested in increasing your sales and profits. But what if I told you you could eliminate the hope and pray out of your marketing? You could spend money and actually see results. You know, most marketing starts with attention, like a billboard. The problem is that attention leads nowhere. That's why we created the ROI Engine Restaurant Program. We take attention and gain huge engagement, whether it's in-store or online. We help you build a database with deep customer information that's comprised of email, cell phone, and birthday. And then we drive them into the restaurant with trackable results. Yes, results you can actually see. If you're interested and want to have a conversation, check out restaurantmarketingthatworks.com. Worst case scenario, you get a lot of great ideas. Now back to the show. So I'm going to pivot to a completely different topic. And we talked about this earlier. So I'm a partner in a CrossFit gym. And one of our issues we had with the CrossFit gym was our neighbors always complaining because they could hear our music.
Yeah.
And it was an issue with the landlord not telling them the walls weren't good. As we're sitting here, F-45's on the other side. Yeah. Their music's booming.
Feel the beat.
You can feel the beat. What has that brought any challenges where you've had to have a relationship and say, hey, here's the level, or there's noise issues?
No, I mean, everybody, they're great. I mean, we did have, I've asked them to regulate the bass. But you know, some music has more bass than others. So we did have the candy jars on the middle shelf bounce off, and you know, they said that they would have a contractor come in and put lips on the end of the shell. You know, I didn't have them do it. I mean, all of us in here.
What I've learned from our CrossFit gym, which kind of amazed me, because when we moved into that, this is our third location, we moved into that, we went around to every tenant, because it's in a big open strip center, and gave every one of them, hey, this is for any employee, a month for free. Yeah. We want to, you know, whatever we can do to be great neighbors. I was really surprised at how nasty so many neighbors were. Like,
really?
Wouldn't even walk over. And I remember the first week we were in, there's a national chain next to us, I won't mention, but it's a franchise and it's a big retail company. And I had heard all this negative, and I walked over, and right when I walk in, they're just chirping in my ear, and I'm like, hey, can we sit down and have a conversation? Yeah, what's going on? I said, I'm hearing all of this. Well, yeah, we're not happy. I said, have you walked over and talked to anybody?
Right.
Well, no. I'm here. I'm one of the owners. What do you need? What's the problem? And I had never been in their place.
Right.
So I had never heard their music.
Yeah.
The minute I went to the back of the store and I heard it, I went, okay, let's do this. You get on the phone, I'll get on the phone. We sat there and regulated the level, came up with an agreement. Right. But it really amazed me. That was my first time that I'm like, why it was so hard to understand having a positive relationship with neighbors.
Just talking.
Yeah.
That's the first step, right?
Yeah. So I'm guessing also the other side of it is it's kind of humorous to me that
a dessert shop
next to a fitness place. You told me earlier that you've seen posts online.
Yeah, where people say they were headed to F45, they're in their workout clothes, but they're posing for an Instagram photo eating their dessert instead. I don't blame them. I'd rather do that.
So talk about marketing. I know you've done some pretty cool stuff with Christian and his team on Instagram. You've worked with us a little. What are some things you've learned from, I mean, this isn't like a pizza shop down the street or this coffee shop next door. People aren't taking Instagram or doing great pictures with coffee.
Well, I mean, I definitely think I think the dessert business in general has, the material is a little sexier than a cup of coffee or a burger. So we have an advantage that way, but I also think so many people are so, how do I say it, like jaded on Instagram? Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they just see so many crazy things that the expectation just keeps going up and up. And I also think with restaurants, I also think that you always think that you're more, I don't want to say famous, but more known than you really are. You know what I mean? So I think that's the biggest struggle with getting numbers up, is just realizing how limited your exposure has been, you know, and where it can go.
Because at the end of the day, we all think that like everybody knows us.
Right, but they totally don't.
Yeah.
Totally don't.
I'll never forget we had a boat dealership for 10 years, and we had a boat that we could never sell. It was a brand, it was a unique product. And out of nowhere, this guy comes in, and we had the boat for 2 years. Couldn't get rid of it. Guy comes in with that exact boat, and I'm like, my gosh, you've got one of these. Where did you get it? Oh, I just drove 2 hours south to E-Town to get it. I'm like, where do you live? Across the street?
Yeah,
I'm like,
seriously.
like what? And he's like, yeah, I didn't know you guys were here. I'm like, we're a 7-acre boat dealership across from your house, but you just never know.
But you and I do it too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there could be things 3 doors down that you just never even, you kind of pass by, you're thinking about 10 other things, and so anyway, the marketing is huge, and Christian's been a big help because I mean, what do I know? You know, I just would take pictures and write captions in my car and be like, oh my God, I forgot to post this, and blah, blah, blah. So he's been great.
What have you seen so far that you've done in marketing that's worked? What have been some of the things that have caught your attention?
Well, I think your thing is really going to work.
Okay.
I do. I mean, it's only been 8 weeks, but I mean, I track how many, how fast it's growing. And compared to whatever it was we did for that 4 month before, which was like nothing. But like I said when I was talking to Casey, the good thing about it is you can actually see what the results are versus like, oh, we got 400 likes, that must translate to this percentage of our sales, right?
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, that's where it came from. One of my clients, Nick Ellison, Hofbrauhaus, Newport, Pittsburgh, and Columbus back in 2015, Mr. Flip Phone, didn't do email, didn't know social media, and we were having a lot of success with digital marketing for his brands, and he used to say, Matt, I can't deposit likes.
Right.
And I remember the first time he said
that. Oh my God, that's
like,
a great saying.
He said that, and I'm like,
I need to tell my husband that.
I'm like, what are you talking about, Nick? He's like, Matt, I can't go to Fifth Third and deposit because we had grown Hofbrauhaus Pittsburgh from like 5,000 fans to 39,000 fans.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't deposit like, that does nothing for me from a financial standpoint. I said, okay, so what you're telling me is you want me to show you that those likes mean people walking in your line.
Translate to sales.
And that was our first ever promotion. It was National Pretzel Day 2015. It was a Sunday, and I said, it was like 2 weeks before that. I said, okay, Nick, give me enough rope to hang myself. I'm going to show you how this works. And we did a promotion that the week leading up to it and had that Sunday, the 3 locations, 18 grand in incremental sales.
Wow.
That was trackable from those likes.
Yeah.
And that's what really took a light bulb in my head, because I had always been an ROI person. But I've always understood that when we had the boat dealership, we spent 300 grand a year. The cool part about the boat dealership was when you spent money, people gave you their information on, like they were buying a boat. Here's my name, my phone number, my email, and the unit I'm looking for. You followed up with them.
So you kind of copied that.
Your point of sale knew. It was I used to always think about that when we started working with restaurants. I'm like, man, my clients that are car dealerships, that are HVAC companies, the people willing you give information because they have to get a quote.
Right.
Like, how can I convince consumers to give me the same information and then track it so that we know we're on the right path?
Right.
Because, as you said, you can't deposit likes.
Yeah, no, you can't. Yeah, so now we can actually see. I mean, it's been a very short amount of time.
It's been a couple months. I think I saw the other day it's like 10 or 11% of the people that have engaged online and given the information have already walked in, which
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've sent me a dashboard that I could look at that, but yeah, good to know.
So I want to ask you a question. This isn't self-fulfilling, but you said something earlier, and I can't take credit for this, got me, but you said something about my team, about how quick they respond, or you made some comment about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, just because if there's any kind of issue, like I can think of we've had it twice now where someone keyed in like that they spent $100, they probably meant $10. Yeah, and I mean, we just posted in Workplace, and I swear somebody's on it like that.
Instantly.
Which is huge for me because I have so many things and so many buckets, and even my husband, I get annoyed. If I have to ask you something twice, you've wasted my time. Like, I need it solved now, so you guys do that.
Well, and I can't take credit for it. I don't do anything within that, but one of the reasons we did transition to that, just so you know, it's a product called Workplace. It's owned by Facebook, and there's other ones out there like it. But the problem we had a lot was clients always knew me. And they always emailed, Matt, can you fix this? Can you fix this? And at the end of the day, I'm not the one really doing the stuff.
Right.
And so then I'm forwarding an email, and then they're replying to me. I'm replying
You're
to
a
the client.
middleman, yeah.
And so I had a client recently who's like, Matt, I don't really want to get involved in Workplace. And I said, well, here's the reason.
See, that was my thought too.
I said, here's the reasoning. When you post it in there, Matt doesn't always see it.
Right.
Like 29 people, or 28, 29 can see it. And that way people can take action quick.
Well, and if you do emails, which would be my next logical thought, the threads, just with people, yeah, it goes on. And I totally agree, because I said to Christian, I have like 32 apps for 52 areas, like, do you know what I mean, enough? But I do get where that's helpful, yeah.
Restaurant owners, did you know Matt has free online marketing courses that teach you how to successfully market your restaurant? Email support@mattplapp.com to get access to the courses and a free social media content calendar.
Okay, so last question. I end the episodes all the time with a question about how, as entrepreneurs, because you said you're working a lot, you're running around. Mm-hmm. I mean, what I loved when you walked in here, and didn't know it was you at first, but I figured it out, but you were talking about some boxes back here being moved. I saw you grab something underneath here.
That's my OCD.
Well, the reason I love that, and I guess I'll get to the question in a minute, is that it shows you're paying attention.
Yeah.
I so many times wonder with businesses, you'll see something laying by the front door, on the floor.
Yeah.
How many people walked by it and didn't pick it up?
A lot.
And that's what I saw.
My children.
Yeah.
My children all would do that.
But you're in here a lot. You're
Yeah.
involved in the business. And I have a question I always ask, how do you turn on airplane mode? So you've got 4 kids, you've got life, you've got the business. What do you do to, when you step out of here, they say, okay, I've got to recharge, I've got to do something?
So I don't, No, that's why
So we got to get you an airplane mode.
No, but that's why I work 70 hours a week. 2 years ago when I first came in and I was never ran a restaurant before, trying to learn the business, the front of the house, the back of the house. I was working 70 to 90 hours every single week for 8 months until I got really sick.
Yep.
So now I try to cap it at 70, but it's because I sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch TV or I'm going to read a book, but then the computer ends up on my lap and I'm on Clover, I'm on Homebase, I'm on the delivery, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's really hard to unplug. The only thing I do is I play tennis, but where I used to play like 5 to 7 times a week, I play only once or twice a week. But that's the only time I'm not thinking.
So my goal then is to remind you the next 6 months to get airplane mode on more often.
Yeah. It's not gonna happen.
She doesn't sound too convinced.
It's not gonna happen. I was the same way in sales. It's just I'm a major type A?
Type A,
where you just can't stop.
Well, you love it. And you enjoy it, and there's a chase
I do.
there.
I sit there and I complain about it, and I make fun of this restaurant and what I do. But then my husband will say, "Well, we could sell it," and then I'm like, "Oh, that would be sad. I'm not done yet."
Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. Well, I appreciate your time today.
It's nice to meet you.
It was nice to meet you in person. I look forward to grabbing a shake for the ride home. Not a boozy shake because we're driving.
So boring.
But I already hit the cookie dough. Now it's time for the cookie dough shake.
Okay, good.
Cool. Well, that's it for this episode of MPTV. We'll see you around next time. But don't forget, you've got to be a little OCD because there's stuff on your floors that customers see.
They do.
And they wonder why you didn't see it.
100%.
That's all I got.